All right, welcome back, business students. Today, we're building the absolute ultimate revision guide for two major pricing strategies on your syllabus. If you're prepping for exams or just want to really nail down market dynamics, you're in the exact right place. We're taking these heavy economic theories and making them super visual and easy to remember. So grab your notes, get settled, and let's dive right in.
Here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off by unpacking price discrimination and its 3 specific degrees. After that, we'll pivot over to price benchmarking and break down the 3-step process to pull it off.
First up on the syllabus, understanding price discrimination.
So what are we actually talking about here? Well, price discrimination is basically a strategy where a retailer charges entirely different prices to different consumer groups for the exact same product. I know, it sounds a bit wild, right? But it relies on one massive core assumption. Different customers are simply willing to pay different amounts. If a retailer can figure out how much you're willing to part with, they're going to adjust that price tag specifically for you or your demographic.
Now, a quick aside. A lot of people hear the word discrimination and immediately think it's illegal. Let's squash that myth right now. This is entirely lawful. The only time it actually crosses a legal line is if it leads to specific, demonstrable financial losses or real anti-competitive harm. Otherwise, it's just a totally standard, super effective tool in a business's toolkit.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, the 3 degrees of discrimination. Retailers aren't just out there guessing blindly. They deploy this in 3 very specific degrees. We've got first degree, which is perfect personalized pricing, second degree, or menu pricing, and third degree, which uses broad group categorizations. Let's break these down with some real-world examples so they stick in your head for the exam.
All right, starting with first degree. Economists love to call this perfect price discrimination. This is where a retailer manages to charge the absolute maximum price a customer is willing to pay for every single unit. It's like the holy grail for sellers. A great example to lock in your memory is the auto industry. Think about it. Manufacturers will frequently price the exact same car model totally differently depending purely on the country it's sold in, just maximizing for that specific nation's purchasing power. Next up is second degree, also known as product versioning or menu pricing. This kicks in when different prices are set based on the quantity you buy. Think about the last time you grabbed a drink at the store. You almost always pay proportionally less for a big 1-liter bottle compared to a smaller 650 ml one, right? The retailer is basically handing you a volume discount, incentivizing you to buy more while capturing a totally different segment of your willingness to pay. And finally, third degree discrimination. This is the one you probably see every single day. Here, retailers categorize consumers into distinct groups based on specific observable attributes. The textbook example, public transit. Think about railways offering discounted fares for senior citizens and completely free travel for young children. They're just segmenting the market by age because they know seniors and kids have totally different income levels and willingness to pay than your standard adult commuter.
All right, let's pivot to our external strategy with Section 3, understanding price benchmarking.
So what is price benchmarking? It is the continuous process of comparing your business's prices against your competitors within a specific market segment. Now look closely at the word continuous there. That is absolutely crucial. This isn't just something you do at an annual corporate retreat. It's an ongoing, relentless evaluation to make sure your pricing strategy is actually working and to lock in a permanent competitive edge. Why go through all that effort? Well, retailers use this to guarantee their prices stay at a reasonable level. Basically, a price buyers will actually accept instead of just running straight to the competition. Plus, it's an absolute game changer when you're trying to penetrate a new market. I mean, you can't just storm into new territory without knowing exactly what the locals are already paying your rivals. But listen, here is a massive trap that so many failing businesses fall right into. I really want to highlight this warning directly from the source material. Benchmarking is about critically analyzing your own prices, rather than just blindly copying what your competitors are doing. If you just copy them, guess what? You're adopting all their mistakes too. Use their data to inform your own unique strategy. Definitely do not just become a clone.
So how do we actually pull this off? That brings us to Section 4, the benchmarking process.
This process is basically a continuous loop that runs through 3 key phases. First, planning what you're actually going to measure. Second, analyzing the data you collect. And third, implementing the necessary adjustments. Let's look at the nuts and bolts of each step. In step 1, the planning phase, clarity is literally everything. The retailer has to figure out exactly which products or services they want to benchmark. You can't measure the whole universe at once, right? Then, they need to identify the strong market leaders. Who are the real threats out there?
And finally, they've got to clearly define the specific target market segment they're going to analyze.
Once the plan is locked in, we hit step 2, analyzing. This is where the heavy lifting happens. The business gathers competitor pricing data, but they aren't just staring at static numbers. They carefully compare prices, track how those prices fluctuate over time, and evaluate the current market trends and overall consumer sentiment. Basically, they're hunting for patterns and new opportunities.
And finally, step 3, implementing. Look, all that data is completely useless if you don't actually act on it. In this phase, the retailer has to constantly tweak their own pricing strategy based on all that rigorous analysis they just did to maintain or grow their position. And remember, this is an ongoing effort. It's not a one-and-done deal. Literally, the second you implement, you loop right back around to planning.
As we wrap up this revision session, I want to leave you with a quick thought exercise that ties both of today's big concepts together. Think about how incredibly dynamic these forces are. If benchmarking requires continuous, active adjustments by every major player, how long can a personalized first-degree pricing strategy truly last in a market that is constantly shifting? Just think about how the whole market reacts when one single business changes its price, forcing everyone else to adapt. It's like a giant puzzle. Keep that in mind as you study. Thanks so much for joining me today, and best of luck crushing those exams.